Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Czech Tier 8 Premium Light Tank, the VZ.68 Squall, which is part of the Ultimate Season Pass reward for this season. Now if you did like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the VZ.68 Squall, that's come with this season. What's also come with this season is the new crew and equipment changes, which has changed a lot of how the crew setups are going to look like and what the equipment setups are going to look like. Hopefully I should have a video with you for the next day or two, going over some of the generic crews for heavy tanks, tank destroyers, light tanks, all that good stuff, so that if you feel like you want to go play a tank destroyer, or you want to play a heavy tank, or you want to play a light tank, you can look at the generic crew and just go, yeah, I'll take those skills, and then you can tinker with it later to get the best for the specific tank, because naturally they'll have to be adjusted per the tank to get the best out of the tank. But we'll give you some generic crews so you can go along the way and just get playing with it. And then, like I say, it's 28 for the next 28 days. You'll have the ability to change the crew completely for free. So yeah, in terms of equipment setups, though, there won't be any generic equipment setups because it's different per tank completely. You'll see that as we go through, start reviewing or playing some tanks and getting some good replays out there on those tanks. But I digress. The Squall. It's a fairly well-balanced light tank. It's not the greatest vehicle in the universe. It's got decent camo. I think you get it down to about 270 or 280 metres of still concealment. The gun handling's okay, but generally, with how fast this gun fires, it does miss quite a few shots. It's not great at range. It's pretty decent up close and personal. It does a decent amount of damage in the clip, but you've got to pen most of those shots to be able to do it, and it generally doesn't do that often unless it's against something that's lightly armoured. It's as big as a house, which means as soon as you do get spotted, you are very easily hit. It takes a hit very, very easily, and you will lose a lot of hit points. And the mobility is more top-end medium tank-esque instead of light tanky, so it's not got the best mobility in the universe for a light tank. It's one of those that's just a bit awkward to play, and it's going to take a fair bit of knowledge to get the most out of this tank in terms of positioning, to be able to get the gun going, to be able to get as much damage as possible, to be able to spot for yourself while also not getting spotted and then instantly shot. It's one of those tanks that a lot of people will probably struggle with. It is the Squall apocalypse at the minute, which naturally is the case with every Ultimate Pass tank that ever comes out. There's always billions of them in the matchmaker. It'll be like that for probably the next week, and then it'll start to calm down, as I think a lot of people will struggle to actually get anything out of this tank, and they'll probably just put it away. So yeah, that's the Squall. What we're going to do now is go into the statistics for the vehicle. So as you can see, we've got a 60 km/h top speed, 21 km/h reverse speed, 570 horsepower engine, which is 27.14 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you fly up to the top speed really easily, especially since the ground resistances are amazing. You do not have to focus on those whatsoever. You don't have to take off-road drive and all that good stuff, because those terrain resistances are immense. 27.14 horsepower per ton ratio, like I say, is fantastic. Means you will fly to the top speed easily. Obviously, the 60 km/h top speed is good, but it's not as good as quite a few of the other Tier 8 light tanks, so you will struggle in terms of that, but still good enough to get to some of the aggressive spotting locations. 15% internal fire chances in the middle of fire chances. I haven't really been set on fire, though, in this vehicle, which is quite good, as opposed to the BZ.72 one from last week, right? 45 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means this tank does turn pretty quickly on its tracks, which is lovely. It helps the tank feel a little bit more, or a little bit less lethargic in terms of its mobility. 42 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is slower than the tracks, so do bear that in mind, that the turret does turn slower. You got 306 meters of still concealment, which is the same as your on-the-move concealment. Naturally, as you are a light tank, you have the same on-the-move concealment as you do still, which you can get down to, like I say, about 270, 280 odd when we get it fully equipped out, which you'll see later on. 380 meters of view range is bog standard for a Tier 8 tank. As I always say, that is very average view range for a Tier 8 tank. A lot of them have 380, which means you don't have as good a view range as some of the other Tier 8 light tanks, because some of the other Tier 8 light tanks are going up to 390, 400, and even some have got 410. So yeah, that's a little bit of a letdown for the Squall in terms of the light tank view range, but there we go. 1.4 accuracy during rotation with a 2.91 accuracy during movement isn't great, and it means that the aim circle will be rather large when you move this tank, making it quite difficult to hit shots on the move. But with taking run and gun, gun stabilizer and snapshot, you will get those values down decently low, meaning it's not massive, but it's still not great. You have a 2.2 second aim time though, which means it does aim in pretty quickly, which is decent for the VZ.68 Squall, meaning that you don't have to wait too long to be able to get the gun aimed in when you stopped. And most of the time you won't be spotted until you start firing, so you will have that time to aim, unless you're full-on running and gunning brawling, which this thing doesn't really want to be doing that often, because if you do that, you will be taking hits and you'll probably be missing quite a few shells as well. 6 degrees of gun depression is a little bit limiting. It's not great, and it does struggle to get the gun down on a ridgeline depending on where you are, so do be very careful of that gun depression in the VZ.68 Squall. You got 0.4 accuracy at 100 meters, which is derpy. Not the best accuracy in the universe, and since you can't really help that out that much anymore, like I say, it will feel a bit derpy, and when you are firing this clip, it will take quite a lot to get the most out of the clip, as quite a few will miss, because the aim circle naturally with the after firing dispersion will be quite large. So if you just hold the trigger, because it's got that 0.04 second intra clip, because it's more like an autocannon with the 50mm gun, it will be spraying shots everywhere. You've got 20-second reload, which is 2k DPM, but you don't really pay attention to raw DPM for this type of autoloader. 20-second reload isn't horrific, isn't good. It's one of those that sits in the middle where you don't feel like you're out of the game for all that long, to be honest, and then you get it loaded. It's just that you got to make the most of hitting those shells. 182mm of penetration on the standard AP, 236 on the premium APCR, and 50 on the HE. Now, the HE could be useful against some of the lightly armoured vehicles like other light tanks, but it's not guaranteed to pen a lot of the light tanks, so that could be a pure pain. And so for the ammo you got in the tank, you might be best just to take AP and APCR. That's what I do, because I don't find any value in firing the HE, but it could be a memey thing to do against some of the light tanks and the artillery as well, as you do go up to 16 damage. As it is low on damage, naturally, per shot, as it's 8 damage. That's a balancing factor that's better than the T249 was at 25 or whatever it is, which deletes. This thing doesn't delete quite like that tank, which is good, because that tank's broken. And so that's nice. You've got 750 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, which is part of why this gun also feels fairly derpy and is a real pain to use this gun at distance, because if a tank is on the move, you won't hit half of your clip. You've got to do really well to hit most of the clip on tanks that are on the move at 300-400 meters. 950 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR is below average again, and you will feel the difference between the APCR velocity to the AP, though, as it is a little bit faster. What you'll probably find with this vehicle is most people fire pure premium. They fire pure APCR, because 182 can be a bit of a struggle, and especially when you end up in those tier 10 games, you're not really going to pen much with the 182 pen, whereas 236 will go through a lot of vehicles. It still struggle with quite a few of the tier 10s, but it will go through more vehicles than the standard pen will, and it'll be just that little bit less awkward. So you'll end up finding that, yeah, most of these probably fire APCR, which is, yeah, one of those things. But you do have 6 damage a shot on the premium APCR, so it does do less damage per shot than the standard, which is something that is nice. So you've got less clip potential when you fire that APCR round. And you do have 100 shots in a clip. So naturally, you do 800 damage per clip, or you do 600 damage per clip. So you lose 200 clip damage when you fire the premium. So it's trade-offs. But again, I think you'll find that a lot of people will just fire the premium because it's easier to pen things, but there you go. You got 150% silver bonus because it's a premium tank, which means it does make decent silver, but it's not the best silver earner in the universe, as there's quite a few out there at tier 8 that are a lot better than it. In terms of the module viewer, that's where the engine bay is for the tank, so if you get shot in that back end, yeah, it's likely that the engine will get damaged. Like I say, I haven't really been set on fire though, which is quite nice, but yeah, the engine will get damaged getting shot in the back end, so be careful of that. That's where the ammo racks are. I have had my ammo rack damaged quite a bit, and that's if people shoot you in this center section here, they're likely to damage the ammo rack, and it will happen. And that's where the crew sits for the Squall as well. Armour, it's a light tank. It's made of pure paper. I mean, yeah, it's got no armour. 30mm of armour, 20 on the upper plate. Although, that 20mm of upper plate armour is enough to bounce some tanks and just get random ricochets because of how well sloped it is. But generally, you're pure paper, so you'll get penned by most vehicles. Again, angles are a thing, just like a bat chat. You will occasionally bounce a shot that you'll sit there going, how did I bounce that? That's just the way it is. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment with the new crew and equipment setup? Well, let's get the crew in here. I do run Born Leader, Situational Awareness, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Camouflage Expertise, Green Thumb, Radio Jamming, Comms Expert, and Expert Gunner. Now, naturally, this might change. I don't know. I've still got to play around with the crew system more, right? It's the first day. So this is just what we've looked at and gone, yeah, that sounds like it'd be good. So Expert Gunner, which increases the chance of damaging an enemy crew and modules with non-HE shells, is what we're going to take on this tank because it fires a lot of shells very quickly, so we want to increase the chance of doing that damage. Plus, we're decreasing the effect of that distance has on shell penetration ability, because Expert Gunner is Deadeye and Iron Mace together now. Comms Expert, because naturally we want to increase the duration of targets we spot by 3 seconds, so tanks will now stay spotted for 13 seconds if you spot them with this tank. But then we're also decreasing the amount of time we're staying spotted by 3 seconds by enemy vehicles as well. Now, naturally, if someone else is running these, you basically negate it and it goes back to the standard 10 seconds. But yeah, they're nice to have for a light tank indeed. But to be honest, I think quite a few vehicles are probably going to take these as well in general. Green thumb, just to stay... well, to increase our camo factor while in foliage, as it can be nice if we park up in a bush to go passive scout. It can be quite nice to have that for a light tank. And a camouflage expertise at 7.5% to increase the vehicle's camouflage factor as well. Again, increasing the camo of this vehicle to make it so it's a lot harder to spot. Run and gun to make the accuracy of the tank better by 10% on the move and get that accuracy during movement down. And snapshot to get the accuracy during turret rotation down by 10% as well, with situational awareness to increase the view range by 6% and Born Leader to get everything to be 5% of that little bit better. Now, this is probably the generic light tank crew I'm going to run on most light tanks and then, you know, tinker with it depending on the tank that I put the crew in. But this is probably my generic light tank crew. So if you want to take your light tank crews out today, take this as a crew and then just tinker with it. Again, it's free to respec your crew for the next 28 days and take one perk off and put another one on. So yeah, take this as a generic one. It's not the best crew in the universe possibly, but it could be the best one you could take for a light tank. We don't know yet. But take this and then just tinker with it per the light tank that you are taking, because then some light tanks might not even need run and gun or snapshot, or some might not need expert gunner. They might want to take something else, like making the turret traverse better, or making the track traverse better, you know, or taking supply conservation to get food back faster. Really, there's plenty of things you could take instead of some of these perks like expert gunner, but yeah, that's probably the more generic one we're going to be taking. And then in terms of equipment for the Squall, food, naturally, as that has been nerfed as well, because that was, I think, 10% for the passive boost. But now it's 5%. And we get more Commander XP as well on this now. But there we go. And 15% crew performance. So we're taking food, just generally to get everything better. Then we're taking optics to get the view range as high as possible. Gun stabilizer to keep the gun accuracy during rotation movement down as low as it can be, so that we can be ready to fire this gun as quickly as possible. The improved concealment to be able to just get the detectability of the vehicle down. It doesn't tell us what the percentage is, and it doesn't stack with camo net, by the way. So if you're thinking, oh, I'll take the camo net and the improved concealment, they don't work together. But yeah, take the improved concealment to just reduce the camo down all the time. And then we're taking the turbocharger just to get that extra little bit of top speed. It's not much top speed, like I say, it's 2 kilometers an hour extra, but that every little helps. But again, that could be changed out quite easily for something like vents to get the reload to be a bit better. Gun lane drive, if you wanted to make the aim time quicker. You could run flash hider if you wanted to reduce the effect of firing on your camo. You know, even even binocs. Even binocs, if you wanted to go pull up in a bush and increase your view range. But again, they don't stack with the optics, so you do have to be careful of that as well. But that's what we run in terms of a crew and equipment on this vehicle. That's what you're going to be seeing in terms of the replays that we're going to be putting out to show you for it. That's probably my more generic crew in terms of putting it into a light tank. And in terms of the equipment, like I say, that's going to be different per every vehicle, to be perfectly honest. As some vehicles might want the powertrain, some might not want it, some won't need the gun stabilizer, some will. Some might not want to focus on camo at all. You know, it's all that good stuff. So we'll get to that if we make a video for it. Well, when we make a video for it. So let's have a look at the statistics. Now it's fully kitted out. As you can see, actually we've got a 63 km/h top speed. Sorry, not 62 km/h top speed. 63 km/h top speed. 22 km/h reverse speed. Better engine power now at 598, which is still 28.5 horsepower per ton ratio. Terrain resistances have got a little bit better because of Born Leader and stuff. 276 meters of still concealment. I knew it was somewhere in that range. 276 meters of still concealment, which is still pretty decent. Helps you stay unspotted, and especially with view range dropping across the board as well because of the loss of Born Leader and food getting a little bit worse. We've now got 464 meters of view range, so that camo is still very impactful. It would have been less, naturally, before the update, but still very good camo at 276. 464 meters of view range, like I say, very average in terms of the view range for a tier 8 vehicle, and that's why you might want to run vents instead of the turbocharger, because that will help your view range and get even better, which is useful for a light tank. 43.81 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is still slower than the tracks. We've helped it out a little bit, but we haven't taken anything to help it in that regard. 1.03 accuracy during rotation with a 2.10 accuracy during movement is better than it was. It means the aim circle won't be quite as big, but it still will be rather large as they're not the best combo in terms of numbers, so do expect the aim circle to bloom out. But you do have a 2.1 second or 2.11 second aim time, and again, that's not the slowest aim time in the universe. It doesn't take, and it doesn't feel like it takes too long to get this gun aimed in. 19.18 second reload, which is 2.1k DPM. You've lost 0.8 of a second on the reload, which again, like I say, you don't feel like you're twiddling your thumbs for too long. Once you've dropped the clip and you go and reposition, by the time you've repositioned most of the time, you've nearly loaded, and so it's not the worst reload in the universe. But like I say, the Squall, it's just been a fairly well-balanced vehicle. I don't think it's terrible. Well, I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's good. It's one of those vehicles that I haven't really enjoyed, to be honest. But it's also been one that I haven't felt like I was totally useless. It's one of those vehicles where it's just sort of there and it's sort of, you go, yeah. But it is the Tier 8 Czech light tank premium that came out on PC before the line. Will we see the Czech Tier 8 line in the next couple of months? Possibly, possibly not. I mean, the Grom came out, what, 9 months ago, 8 months ago, and we've still not seen the Polish tank destroyer line from PC, so I wouldn't count my chickens on the Czech Tier 8, the Czech light tank line from PC coming in anytime soon, but there we go. So let's go into the replays now with the Squall, where you can see this tank in action, see if it's a bit of you or not, and see if you just think it's worth picking up the Ultimate Pass. So as always, everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the VZ.68 Squall, and this first game we're here on this map, which is Hidden Village, which is not the best map for the Squall in the universe, because the Squall likes to be able to catch people out, drop the clips, and run away. This is a very corridory map, which is where it's going to struggle a bit, because it means it's going to take hits generally trying to get the damage out, and it's a bit more difficult to be able to be effective in this tank. So like I say, this tank is decently well balanced. It's one of those that, with the way that these autocannons seem to be in this game, they either seem to be absolutely incredible or really not very good. This thing is in that where it's not really great, but it's also not terrible. You can do quite a bit of damage, but at the same time, it can be extremely awkward and just very frustrating to play at times, because you sit there and you go, yeah, I just fired loads of shells in that one go. That one burst felt like it was really impactful. I did about 475 damage. And you sit there going, if I was in another light tank with, say, the other tank that's currently in the Season Pass, which you can get, which is the M41 90mm, which is the unskinned Hurlenhund, would I have been better off in the Hurlenhund there, firing 2 shells? Probably. And I wouldn't have had to expose myself for quite as long either, you know? The mobility's just that little bit lacking as well. There's times where you get chased down and you just feel like you can't get away. You know, you feel like that little bit limited. I don't know, it's been very hit and miss, this tank. Very hit and miss. Sometimes you feel like, yeah, I'm perfectly capable of having a good game. Sometimes it's very difficult to get the most out of it, which can be a bit frustrating. If it was full price, would I say it was worth it? It's probably not. But if it's in the Ultimate Pass, which is 4,000 gold you're technically paying for it, because you get 2,000 gold back from the Season Pass, yeah, it's not too bad for it, realistically, but again, it's a bit of a niche tank. It will be one of those tanks that some people will get a lot out of it and will really enjoy the playstyle, and some people really won't like this tank and they'll think it's terrible. Where I don't think it's terrible, but it's an acquired taste, right? So far in this game, again, you see me going, right, where am I going to be able to have an impact? Well, we're going to go after this E25. We're trying to get a load of shells in, and again, we did about 300 damage with that whole burst. And we ricocheted quite a few shells off of that E25. So that E25 has ended up crashing into a rock, which has put himself in a bit of an awkward position. He ends up getting finished off by the Tiger 131. And we take a hit from the secondary weapon system off the Hori. And it breaks the engine. Oh, pain, as we've just used the repair kit as well. And that's what I'm talking about with the engine deck. If you take a hit in that rear, generally you will end up having your engine damaged, which makes a tank that doesn't feel that mobile in general, or should I say that a light tank that doesn't feel that mobile in general for a light tank, feel even worse in terms of that mobility, which can be definitely annoying. So I'm trying to see where I can get some shots in to help this light tank down below out and try and get some damage out. And again, this is where I say, would I have been better in any other light tank with the standard kind of gun? Probably. because it's not as hard to hit the shots, and also when we've had that opportunity where we only get 1 or 2 shells into them, I could have hit them for 240 probably. Like, I'm just taking the M41 90mm here as an example. I could have hit them for 240 as opposed to the 16 damage I probably did to them in total. We're up to 1195 damage so far with 123 assistance. And again, I'm trying to find a position where I'm going to be able to get shots into these guys as they progress out of the little towny area. So the Astron Rex gets tracked, but unfortunately in a place I can't quite shoot him. We get the Squall caught out in the open. But even though we were firing at that Squall, we were ricocheting quite a few shots off that upper plate because, again, I said it in the garage section, this upper plate is really well sloped. It's not very thick, but it's really well sloped. So small arms fire like this do occasionally ricochet shots off of it. The VK101P is driving around the side of my heavy tanks. I decided, okay, I've got to get over there to help them. Sadly, we take a hit from the Astron Rex, though. He's distracted by the Tiger 131. So again, we're going to use the distraction of the Tiger 131 as much as possible and get as many of this clipping as we humanly can do. So this way, it puts the VK101P down to a 2-shot for the Tiger 131, and we're just supporting our teammate where we can. We're up to 2.2k damage with 347 assistance. We've got ourselves away from the gun of the VK101P, just waiting on that reload so we can try and help the Tiger 131 and finish him off. But in fact, the VK finishes off the Tiger 131, and we do get the reload in there and finish that guy off. We see the light tank and the Astron Rocks are going to our artillery, so we really need to get over there and try and support the artillery, which is probably going to die, but if I can catch this Squall out and get his gun out of the game, that would be glorious, because naturally he could take a lot of my hit points very, very quickly. I can do the same to him, but we've got here a little bit too late, and the Astron Rex is now in a position where he can try and get shots into us. The Squall is trying to look for shots, though, so we're going to just try, but we only hit him once for 8, make another one go in for 8, and we did 16 damage in that total burst. And you know what? I'm going to risk it for a biscuit. Risk it for a biscuit. Drive straight in front of the dragon going, ha, you're not going to get this. Thank goodness for me, he didn't hit us. That's great. The other Squall is coming after my Mauerbrecher. When I'm loaded, I'm going to help him out if I can. And we're going to drop the entire clip into this Squall. And for the entire clip, 800 capacity of the clip. We only managed to do his whole health for 480. We had loads of shells that once again end up ricocheting. And that put us on 2,850 damage. We take a hit there from the Squall from behind. I'm just looking behind me to see what they're doing. And unfortunately for me, Mr. Dragon hits us on the move and finishes us off. And we finished the game in a sad defeat. Sad times for the Squall, but a very unfortunate map for it. It's just it was just very awkward. A very, very awkward game. Finished with the 3rd class, 717 base XP on a loss for 2 kills, 2.8k damage, 347 assistance. Again, decent game for the Squall there in terms of the performance of damage and stuff like that. But yeah, we just couldn't quite get ourselves into good positions in that game to be able to just help the team where we could. It just felt extremely awkward. But now we're on to the second replay. In the second replay, we are here in a tier 10 lobby. Bad times. This tank is really not very good in tier 10 because the penetration sucks. But we are against tier 10s on the new map, or the new returning map. It's not a new map. It's returned map, which is Comorin. And on Comorin, in a tier 10 game, yeah, Comorin shouldn't see tier 10. It's too small for that. But we're going to try and make the best we can. We see the CS63 who gets spotted in an awkward spot. We're just going to keep the shots flying out. We get a bit of assistance on that CS63. We get 323 assistance, sorry, and 457 damage as well into that guy as he tried to fall back. If he'd turned his turret front towards us there, we probably actually would have not penned as many as we did, but hey-ho. I'm now going to try and get the gun depression to shoot this Squall, but again, 6 degrees of gun depression is a little bit awkward and can be a bit of a problem, because that means we've really got to go over the top on this ridgeline. I'm fully expected to get spotted if I start trying to auto-load this guy, which I do. And once again, you see, where people will struggle with this vehicle is they'll feel the need that they've got that clip, so they just have to hold the trigger until they've burnt the whole clip. You just can't do that. You just can't do that. You have to fire until the point where you think, oh, goodness me, I'm going to take a hit. I have to pull back. So that's what we did. We fired a couple of shots, got a couple of shots there into the Squall, not many, to be fair. But then went, okay, I'm probably going to take a hit from a tank destroyer from the back. Don't want to do that. Pulled back, got myself safe. So on Comorin, what we're going to do here is drop into the little bowly area that's where this lake is. And that gets us down from a position where people from the middle of the map can shoot us. and means that once we get around the side here, we can actually go find their pig pen near their base and try and get rid of the artillery, which is a T-92. So we were just keeping our eye on the medium tank in the middle. He can't find us. Mr. T-92, we get a couple of shots into him, but he gets himself down safe. And the VZ.68 Squall over there gets a couple of shots into us as well. But great if we could get rid of that guy, because what I want to do next is go into the area where the T-92 is. It's because it's another dip again, which we can try and use some gun depression and get ourselves safe from people that can shoot us. But if we get spotted by that Squall going in, we could get shot from the middle. A lot of their team are down that 1-2 line, so we have to be very careful of that. Because if they just turn around and go after us, not a good time. Genuinely, not a good time. So we're going to go try and find that artillery, get into this dip, get rid of the arty. But the artillery clearly has just fully run away. I'm taking it very, very cautiously, trying to skirt the border of the map to be able to not get spotted in an awkward spot. We don't want to get spotted too early, as if I end up getting spotted too early, we end up taking a load of hits. We just don't want to die at this point. We actually catch out the Squall, though, finish him off, and the T-92's just got himself down below, so I can't get any shots into him. That's a sad time. I try and destroy the destructible cover so that I could maybe get shots at the Object 277, but I can't do that. And we're loading the premium pen rounds now. Because, yeah, the penetration on this gun, the standard pen is just not going to cut it. 182 pen is not going to go through a 277. 236 will still struggle, but we'll be able to go through him. Naturally, again, we've got to pay heed to the fact that the premium clip is going to do less damage. We have got 600 damage in this clip, as opposed to the 800 if we had the standard rounds loaded. So we managed to drop a lot of the shells into that guy, anger him. It looks like he's going to come full sending after us, and yeah, again, if I get full sent by a 277, it's not going to go too well, is it? Because we do struggle to be able to pen him, and yeah, we don't want that. So the 277 actually didn't come after us, which I was very shocked about. And he's in a position, maybe I can get more shots into his side. So we get a couple of shots in there, but with a couple of shots ricocheting as well, he manages to get himself safe. The Panzerjäger's full sending, though, so we're just going to spam the shells out, try and get as many in as possible, because now if I load the standard shells, I should be able to clip him out. It's going to be a 50-50 as to whether I actually can clip out that Panzerjäger with these premium rounds, though, because, again, you have to make sure that all of them pen, and we have a 600 clip potential. But the 260 ends up shutting down that Panzerjäger, meaning that we now have free reign to go after the back end of people like the 277 and go after the artillery, because the 277 is currently preoccupied with the tank at F3, so we need to use the opportunity to support. So we've got the rear of the 277, we're firing away, we get loads of the shells in, but again, quite a few actually ricocheted off his ass there. Quite a few actually ricocheted. And that's the experience of the Squall. Trying to get all of the clip in is very, very difficult, because the shells do start to go absolutely everywhere. And so they end up hitting auto ricochet sections on tanks that, yeah, you think you probably should be able to get. So the 277 gets shut down by the T-92. We end up getting a load of shots into the GW Tiger, and I'm not sure why I pressed reload. I don't know. I don't really know, but that's ended up costing me damage there on the T-92, because I could have had an extra couple of shots there in the T-92 because we had enough left in the clip. But we went for the reload, and again, I'm not 100% sure why we did that, but there's one tank left on the enemy team. It's the 75, and he gets shut down by the Centauro 45T. And we finished with a decent game there for the Squall in a tier 10 lobby. We finished with the victory, 1 kill, 1964 damage, 1224 assistance. That was a very, very average game with the second class there for 1304 base XP. Very average game indeed for the Squall, but showed it off in a tier 10 lobby, which it can be a royal pain to be able to play in those kinds of lobbies, because, like I say, they tend to spot you quite easily, a lot of the tier 10s, because naturally they've got good view range, they've got a camo that's similar to you, that sort of thing. Then their guns are good, they've got good DPM, obviously a lot lower than they used to be, but still got good DPM, and you're as big as a house, so it's quite easy for them to get shots on you, and then you've got to expend your whole clip to be able to do most of the damage to them. They're just going to win out. This tank is probably the ideal, or should I say, yeah, this tank is probably the perfect tank to describe why +1, -1 is great. Because this tank is really not very good in a tier 10 lobby. It struggles in tier 9, but it's usable. Tier 10 is a proper struggle. But against tier 6s, this thing is purely filthy. And those poor tier 6s don't stand that much of a chance against it. And their games get destroyed. Tier 7s, not so much. Tier 7s can stand it, a lot of them. But still, it's one of those tanks that, yeah, against tier 6s, it's just horrendous to play against. But they won't see tier 6s as often, naturally, because it's a tier 8, and a lot of tier 8 games end up being tier 10s. And then, yeah, against tier 10s, it's just, you sit there going, oh, come on, please let me play the game, right? You know, it's one of those tanks where it's the flip. It's the flip depending on the matchmaking. You can have the matchmaking that's good and you go, yes, I feel great. And then you get the bad matchmaking and you go, oh my lord, this tank is not very good, right? It's one of those. And when you're top tier or mid tier, or when it's tier 8 and tier 7s, you sit there going, yeah, this tank's alright. You know, when it gets the proper normal matchmaking. But I digress. We're on this third replay. In this third replay, we're in a tier 9 game here on Death Valley. So we've managed to get 373 damage so far with spamming some rounds out at someone that got spotted towards the back. We see a potential target in the Hydra, so we come over. He didn't spot us until we fired at him. We fire a load of shots into his side, and we do, for that entire clip into the side of a Hydra, we did about 300-400 damage. Felt like we should have done a way bit more there. But that's the way that this clip goes, like I say. This clip tends to be the type that you feel like you've done a massive impactful amount, and then you look at it, your damage total, and go, oh, I only did 300 damage. Oh, okay. So we take a big hit from the back of the map there, though. We lost about 500 HP, and that makes me go, okay, I can't use that position anymore to try and get shots, because there's clearly something on those back ridges that can see me, so we have to be incredibly careful of that. We see the M46 Patton going after the Vanguard, so we want to try and help that Vanguard out, and while the M46 Patton was distracted, get a load of shots into him, which again, we do about 400 damage from the clip. Again, saying, would I have been better in some other light tanks that have single shots? Probably, for getting damage. But we're up to 1,110 damage so far. And now we've got the clip loaded. Again, I've got to be careful because artillery could get after us, and that wouldn't be a good time. I've got a general up here with me, so I want to try and spot the path coming up. We end up seeing the M46 Patton. The M46 has come up, but nothing else seemed to be there. But oh boy, the Panther 2 managed to actually get up. So we spam a load of shells into that Panther 2, the perfect target, and then we've got to get out of dodge because there's 3 tanks up here. There's a light tank as well as the 2 medium tanks. So we're going to run away into our teammates, because if these guys come charging after us, they'll come charging after us into my teammates, and my teammates can help us out. Because naturally, again, I don't want to be the focus of their attention. They're just going to end up murdering me, which is not a good time. So the heavy tank in the TNH 105-1000, the Campanzer 50T and the Iron Rain are going to cover behind us, so I decided, okay, I'm going to avoid this M46 Patton by sticking as close to the rocks as possible, possibly go after this SMV CC67. But he actually falls back behind that ridgeline, and I think, okay, with the TNH TVZ51 going this way, let's catch out this RU, but I'm always keeping my eye on that M46 Patton. So you see me get a load of shots into the RU. Again, I could have stayed there and spammed the whole clip into that RU, but I knew I was going to take a hit from the M46, so I didn't want to. But now the M46 has taken exception with us, and he is just chasing me, and at this point I can't get away from him, so I'm going to try and use the ridge lines to make it harder for him to hit me, and thankfully he clutches the shot into the ridgeline because we got down below his gun. RBRT a load of shots onto him to try and just throw him off while we keep ourselves moving, because you never know, we might have got lucky and tracked him. And again, we're going towards our teammates, going, help me, help me, I'm just a little squall, I can't do anything to this M46 effectively. So the M46 has clearly been distracted by the TNH. He misses the shot, the TNH is coming in, I think, okay, I can help you, TNH. Oh. Well, I suppose that's one way to deal with the M46 Patton, isn't it? Okay, so I don't need to worry about that M46 Patton anymore. We're up to 2.4k damage and 46 assistance damage. We know there's a TD on those back ridge lines somewhere. We know the SMV CC67's there. So let's go and try and find that TD and try and get around to kill this SMV CC67. So the TD is pressuring that SMV, so I'm thinking, okay, that guy's, because he's only a one-shot, that SMV is probably going to die to that TD. We find the Waffle Panzer 4, spam a load of shots in again, but again, we only did about 300 damage there for the entire clip. Load the AP rounds, but then think, okay, because I have put a HE clip in this tank for this game, because I wanted to just try out a HE clip. That Waffle Panzer 4 is the perfect opportunity, or the artillery, if I find it. And in fact, we have found the artillery. And I look at the map and go, okay, that SMV is no longer there. The TD is still there at F9. I think that SMV is dead. So I can just sit here, get the shots into the FV207 and run away. I get detected. A shot flies at me from in that direction. I think, okay, what was that? That was something in that direction shooting at me. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. It was the SMV CC67 missing me. But he had another shot. And naturally, he killed me. That was bad awareness from me. He ended up shutting us down. But that HE clip was why I don't take the HE. As we finished the game with the Confederate, the 1276 base XP for 3.1k, nearly 3.2k damage. But that's why I don't take the HE. To be honest, because that clip against the artillery, if we'd have done far more damage if we'd just loaded the AP. The HE actually held us back there. So, yeah, disappointment, really. But there we go. We're on to the fourth and final replay of this video, and we're actually top tier, the nice kind of top tier. And this is what I'm talking about with this tank generally. This kind of game is where the tank actually feels really quite nice, as opposed to the tier 10 game in the second one. So we're just trying to find some shots underneath the train carriage here on Wide Park. It's not going to work very well. We just can't find the shots at this Squall, and we're just not actually tall enough to even see over the train. Sad times for us. But we see the heavy tank at E1. That heavy tank at E1 is in a position where I might be able to get shots at him under the train carriage, but I can try and get some shots at the light tanks and heavy tank as well over the top of the train, but again, we're a bit too tall for that. So we're going to go over, use the 6 degrees of gun depression. Again, it's a bit awkward. We have to come all the way over to be able to get shots into this Porlack, and, well, that poor Porlack. That poor Porlack, as he gets shut down there with the final bit of the clip. That is that little bit of lag with the damage that you saw there as well. In the fact that we stopped firing, and then he died. And that's because of the shell velocity / the way that this gun fires. Sometimes it doesn't look like you've hit them and you've done damage, and then all of a sudden it all pops up and you go, oh, right, okay. So we're just trying to find some shots into the IS. Hello, Mr. IS. We've got his lower plate. We're firing away. Loads of the shells are ricocheting, but also loads of the shots are penning. We're up to 1,300 damage, and we're just going to get ourselves safe with the Achilles ended up finishing off that IS. So the two light tanks are patrolling the E line in the middle. What I want to do is get up on top of this ridge line and start shooting them, or get some shots into the rear of this heavy tank. So I see the Squall, and again, you're seeing the clip in action. We end up ricocheting quite a few of those shots, but we still did a good amount. We're up to 1,805. And don't be afraid to do what we've just done there, where we dropped a load of the clip into the Squall. We still had a couple of shells left in it. Just pressed left on the D-pad. Sorry, not left on the D-pad, it's right on the D-pad for me. Right on the D-pad to reload the shell container. Check your settings to find out what it is for you. But press right on the D-pad, that give me a full clip so that I'm ready to go after people like that guy. But sadly, on the M3Y, we ended up ricocheting off his side of his turret because 186 pen just, well, sorry, 182 pen, well, just wasn't quite enough. So we see the Super Chaffee, but I'm deciding, okay, no, yeah, I'm going to ignore these guys. I'm going to go for the guys on the back row. The Squall is running away down the K-line, and with that Squall running down the K-line, don't have to worry about him too much. We've got the side of an Alpine Tiger, who is just looking forwards. That actually, he might be AFK. He could be AFK there. But we get a whole clip there into the side of the Alpine Tiger. The Tiger 1 actually misses as well. We missed by the Jumbo Sherman 2. And we've got this perfect spot to get ourselves safe, get the full reload in, and then go after this Super Chaffee, who is now YOLOing forward. So he's only got 200 hit points left. We put the shells in there to finish him. Oh, in fact, we didn't even get the kill there. The IS Desmond Tutu did. We can't get a shot into the Squall, but we get shot by the Tiger 1, who is an easy penetration for this tank. Good night, Mr. Tiger 1. And we've got the full reload now going. That Squall, or the Hellcat, is the next one on the list. But, well, as you can see, Zorin goes, hi, Hellcat. Bye, Hellcat. Yeah, that poor dude. That poor dude. We're up to 2.8k damage and 483 assistance. The Squall is still alive around this corner, though, but that's because Zorin obviously clipped out the Hellcat and then didn't have any shells left. We go after Mr. Squall and finish him off in the rear as he didn't realise we were here. There's only two tanks left, the light tank and the TD. Squall is the only one left, and he's gone, just like that. And we finished the game with a Ridnos total there for the Squall, which is, like I say, it's a tank that's it's alright. It's just alright, really. With the epic victory, 3 kills, 2.9k damage, 483 assistance damage. The second class, 1256 base XP. Pretty good game there for the Squall, which, like I say, it's an alright tank. It's not anything to shout home about. Is it really worth it? Is it the tank that you should go and experience? Possibly not. We'll probably just wait for whenever the tech tree comes in, however long. For all we know, it could still come in 2 years' time. We don't know. But yeah, it's not the greatest tank in the universe. It's also not the worst. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!